Everybody wants to become the man. Everyone wants the body, the business, the freedom. But no one tells you about the darkness that you're going to face along the way. You know, so many guys face darkness once or twice or 3 times and they pivot because they think they're going the wrong way. When the reality is, guys, the truth is, the aligned path will be extremely dark and extremely uncomfortable. Because alignment to a new level is by default disalignment from your old level. It's going to be difficult. And you have to drag yourself through hell in order to reach heaven. You know, you're going to start losing people, failed relationships, lost mates, less time with family. You will have days where you literally question everything you're doing. You know, where the very thing you've been working hard for, you've prayed for your entire life, now starts testing you to not only see if you're good enough to achieve it, but if you're built enough to retain it. And the truth is, guys, becoming the man, building the brand, it's not about constant winning. It's about constant death. The death of who you used to be, so you can actually become the guy you need to be. And that literally means every single cell in your body needs to be renewed and aligned to a completely new standard every single day. And of course, guys, there is a tax that comes with that. But as much as there is a huge fucking tax you have to pay, men who are truly built to win, they're wired differently. They need this disgustingly darkness in order to see the light. Because the real darkness, the real hell on earth is procrastination. It's stagnancy. It's burning another minute whilst knowing you haven't renewed your reality. So everything, guys, I'm going to run you through today, as dark as it may seem on the reality you're going to face, it will always still be infinitely brighter than the path of mediocrity, than the path of the 99%, who literally just live in the white clouds. You know, the storm becomes extremely pretty when you know that at the other side of the storm, there's sun and there's growth whilst going through the storm. But everyone who opts for the white cloud never gets to see the sun. They just stay in the white cloud. It's comfortable, but it's not too uncomfortable. That's hell. That's hell. That is the price people pay for not going all in. But I'm going to run you through, guys, today exactly the thoughts, the feelings, the adversity that I've genuinely faced on a day-to-day basis. The realizations I've come across, you know, myself, and I've had to work on in order to now build 2 7-figure offers in coaching and consultancy and just become who I am today and live this level of life in Bali, in Dubai, have the network I have, the partner I have, just win in all areas. And this is still the reality of what I face for me to keep growing. So if you relate with this stuff, guys, I want to tell you, you're on the right path. And I want to make sure you never ever press the fucking pause button if you're feeling these feelings, because they're the right feelings. And it means you're going to fucking go kill it. You just got to not let anything else get in your way. Now, one of the first things I want to talk to you guys about, one of the dark sides of going all in, self-development, is the constant internal micromanagement that you have to go through to get there. So I think a lot of people think that it's very linear success, that you just gain some knowledge and you just go boom, boom, boom. But that's not true. And I talk about it like an exponential curve. You've got to be in the game like this, and then all of a sudden it goes very steeply. You can make more progress in 2 or 3 days than you did in 3 years before, through that compounding effect of staying in the game. You know, the most successful people spend years thinking so they don't have to think. It's the compound effect. And it's that constant micromanagement. Understanding your state, your frequency, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs 24/7 in order to get to that next level. You may think you're working 4 hours a day on your high leverage task and you're going to be, you know, in the gym for 2 hours and you're going to be working and reading and whatever. You're working 24/7. You're working whilst you sleep. You've got to be hypnotizing your mind whilst you're sleeping. I sleep with audio on. Okay, literally programming my mind. Every tool in the toolbox, I deploy them. It is work 24/7. When you're at dinner with your partner and you're in the restaurant, you're micromanaging. You know, when you sat in your office, you're micromanaging. You're always like a ghost figure of yourself, watching yourself and just poking yourself on the shoulder. Whoa, you just moved with fear, bro. Did you see that? You just moved with fear. And then you've got to correct yourself. How would I move if I was living in the assumption of that end goal? How decisive would I be? How abundant would I be? How confident would I be? And you have to then have the ability to re-delusionize yourself with that assumption state right now. And at the very beginning, it can be very difficult, because if you've not felt winning and that feeling, that high frequency, it's like test driving the car, right? If you felt the test drive, you can emotionally connect with the feeling of the car, and you can go and get to the point where you can buy the car. But if you've never even test driven it, it's very hard to get that feeling. And that's why the beginning is like, that's requiring all the fuel. You've got to take the jet off. Once you're cruising, it's a little bit easier. So you've got to be constantly in your mind, 24/7, trying to get into the state of the assumption and aligning with it. And every single thought, feeling, belief you have most likely is out of alignment, otherwise you would be living the outcome. So you have to be so precise with every detail. And you have to literally face the truth of your paradigm every single day and work on it with immense repetition. Most people, average people, they escape the reality of their mind and they run from it, and they drink and they go distract themselves. They go play games. They go hang out with some mall simps. You don't do that. You spend time alone. And even if you're with people, you're analyzing yourself like a hawk. And it's hard to switch off. And you won't switch off. But the growth that comes from that, the awareness that comes from that in yourself, understanding yourself, is so good. The second thing, guys, I want to talk about that's also almost like an afterpath of that is the isolation that comes through this awareness. You know, you see life very differently. You're in a different frequency, you're in a different dimension. So you can be at dinner with all of your family, and there's 6 people in the room, but you're the only person in that room. Not because you're better than them, but you're just in a different room. It's like in every room, there is the potential for 100 rooms, different frequency within a room. Everything you look at, you see differently. You know, you look at the fridge and you saw opportunity on why that was good marketing on the fridge, right? But it's not even just how you see everything. You're thinking about your business. You're thinking about your own thoughts. And I also want to tie into that, you know, the hyper perception of others that you then get, which essentially what I mean by that, guys, is because you're so self-aware, because you're so analytical, because you know what every thought and feeling and belief leads to, you basically know the root cause of every outcome through analysis on yourself and studying. That when you're hearing everyone else in your family or your friends or your partner or whatever speak, you know the root cause. And it can ick you a little bit, it can cringe you a little bit, you might want to coach them to help them, but they're just not willing to help themselves. And it's just sometimes a difficult place to be in, when you're in a room with people but you're still there on your own. And it can become more and more difficult to actually get in a room with people who are thinking the same, you know, working on the same goals, thinking the same way about the same goals. Because how many people want to be successful? Basically everybody. But how many people are actually doing what is required to be successful? Virtually nobody. When you are doing what is required to be successful, you only want to be around people that are doing what is required to be successful. And everything else is a leech to that. It's a cancer to your goals. And you know this because every time you're hearing something else, you just know it's infesting your paradigm with stuff that doesn't serve you, because that's the exact thing you're trying to get out of your own mind. That fear, that negativity. You know, you're always thinking about growing your business, and you might be sat there and you might be making 30 grand a month, 10 grand a month, 5 grand a month, 100 grand a month. And you sat there with your family, you sat there with your friends, and they're going, is your business still okay or is it struggling? Because their paradigm just sees struggling as normal. Oh yeah, there's a recession, are you getting on okay? Yes, I'm doing fucking fine because I always win. That's my paradigm. So it can, you know that just comes from a lack of personal development in who you're speaking to, and a fear, and they're projecting that and they don't even know. And it can become very difficult. Another thing I want to talk to you guys about today is the infinite climb that you're always going to face. You know, you climb one mountain, you get to the top, and before you've even had time to put up the flag, you're abseiling back down with no rope. Not because you have to, just because you just wanted to and you don't even know why. And you've already started climbing up the next mountain, and the next one's even steeper. You know, it's the mindset of you didn't come this far to only come this far. You came this far, so you're ready for the next one. And I find this all the time. You hit a level of competence, a level of goals that were once your like deepest desires, that were your forever goals. And you just walk into that day of when you hit them like it's just any other day, like it was never a goal. You even forgot it was your goal because halfway there you've even not even doubled your goal, you've 50x'd your goal. And that intensity, that constant pursuit can leave people around you as well misunderstanding you, you know, thinking that you're never satisfied, that you're never grateful, when in reality you're the most grateful. Because in my opinion, your work ethic for seizing every opportunity to grow shows how grateful you are. The ungrateful people are the people that say, oh, everything's fine, who deep down in their heart know they're not fine, and leave every opportunity to die and just stay in an average level of consciousness. And you're going to get these digs, you're going to get these comments from people, you're never satisfied, when are you going to stop? I'm not going to stop. I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful, and because I'm grateful, I'm going to seize every opportunity. And it's just go, go, go. And everyone's just around you like, why do you never stop? Why are you so ungrateful? Okay, that's one of the things. But you never really get a switch off besides, you know, what other people think of it. It's just build competence through winning something, and that level of competence you achieve through winning something is now, you just see it as, you don't see it as like something to celebrate. You see it as like, oh, I built competence, I built a new version of me to hit that, and that version of me that we used to hit that, instead of celebrating, let's now use that to hit that one. And it's non-stop. But again, I don't see that as a bad thing. All of these are darknesses, but they're also sun at the same time. And you become addicted to the darkness. You know, you start needing the pressure, because you understand that every time you've created this eustress, this good pressure, you've put yourself in impossible situations intentionally. You've drained all your business bank account to go all in and create more growth. And you had to make it happen, you know, because you don't get what you want, you get what you need. So you become addicted to this dark pain and putting yourself in a painful situation, because you know every time you're in a painful situation, you never failed. And it made you grow. So as soon as you get to a point of comfort, you go from 5K a month and you get to 20K a month, you still want to zero back out, because you're like, if I'm at zero, it makes me want to earn more. And now I have 20K to reinvest into myself to grow even faster. And I'm not talking, guys, when I'm talking to you guys now, I'm not talking about people who want to get to 5K a month and stop, people who want to get to 10K a month and stop. That's not a winning mindset. That's an ungrateful mindset. That's a fear mindset. because they put money on a pedestal and they don't understand how easy it is and who you have to become to do that. I'm talking about people that simply want to become the most valuable and keep winning. It's not win once and stop. It's win and win and win and win. And these are the guys that dominate in every niche, in every industry. The guys where there is no cap. They don't even really set an income goal. They set an impact goal. And it's just go, go, go. And in their mind, they know that they have to just create the circumstance and use their circumstances that are difficult as a tool to grow, to hit that North Star goal. Because basically, if their North Star goal was $1 million a month, hypothetically for the time being, if they're making $950 a month, they'll spend $950 a month somehow to make them get to the $1 million. They're just all in, all the time. But then guess what? They get to the $1 million and it's become $5 million a month. And it's just this never out of pressure situation. They just find love in the chaos, in the pressure, but it's all self-inflicted. It's a blessing. But there becomes this addiction to darkness, because when you do it at a small level, when you start, and it all starts in the gym, you train harder, you hit those macros, you skip the sweets when you're on a diet and you've got the cravings, and you feel that pain. And that pain then turns into getting leaner. You see the scale weight coming in. And then you press the intensity harder in that reverse diet once you're shredded. And you see that tissue build up and you build your physique out. All of these little bits of pain, you then start looking for pain. And that mindset trait then, when applied to business, of looking for pain because you know pain equals growth, and it becomes an addiction. You know, if you take a drug and you get a high, you're gonna want to keep taking the drug, but you're gonna want to keep taking more of a drug to get more of a high. It's no different with pain. I believe the winning mindset has the same addictive personality of a crazy drug user, but they just do it with adversity. They do it with pain that makes them grow. And they can be on paper. You can be looking at these guys' lives on paper and thinking, oh my God, surely they're in a comfort state now. They've got a 25 grand a month house, a 10 grand a month house, they're spending 100 grand a month on their lifestyle or whatever they're doing and all of this crazy stuff. But no matter what, they're still creating immense amounts of uncomfort because where they are still means nothing to them. They don't wake up and go, I'm done. I've made it. Time to get comfy. They go, I've come this far and now I've got more money, more resources, more competence to put more pressure on myself and achieve more. You know, the darkness becomes such a bright light. And I think it's the association between the darkness and the bright light that creates success. And that's why I think people win. As dark as it is, it's the relationship with darkness that has to be built. And I was actually having a conversation with one of my clients this morning, and I was listening to his story before. And one of the things he said to me were that he used to be a very top-end guy in a specific sport. And I was like, that's interesting. You know, if you study a lot of people who are winning in anything, you know, even if you look at guys who might have been in a new business model for 3 years and they're just dominating in a market. If you reverse their life back, they may have only had 3 years or 5 years in a specific space, but they've been in a relationship with darkness for a lot longer. You know, a lot of guys were winning at something else before. You know, maybe they were the best at chess, maybe they were the best at rugby, maybe they were the best at boxing, maybe they were the best at golf or tennis or reading in their book club. Like, usually if you find a hyper successful person and if they weren't winning before, it will have probably taken them 10 to 15 years to really win at a high level, because winning isn't just the knowledge, it's the evolution of renewing the cells through this dark period and developing a true winning mindset. Not that can win once, but that can win time and time again. And when I see these people, and even if I've worked with clients and they come through and they just go bam, 0 to 10K in a month, I'm like, And I study the difference between some people who may take 4 or 5 months to get to that point, or 12 months to get to that point, which is still good. But usually there has been a previous relationship with darkness beforehand. They've built a savage physique and they've been able to put themselves through pain. Maybe they were an elite level sports person, so they knew mentally that all of this pain association equals light and winning. So then when it comes to this and it comes to doing the real work and the real truth to build the brand or whatever, they don't even have to think. They've spent the years thinking and self-awarenessing that they can just come in and take action without procrastination. And that's what it's all about. You can't fast track really building a winning mindset. It's day by day by day. The only cheat code is exposure. Those who get around people who already have achieved the goals, the mental syntax, the belief systems, they already have the winning habits, they live and breathe it. Those guys, being around them will fast track you like fuck. Because that will just bring your consciousness into a new dimension. I've had a client, and for the last 3 weeks, we've had our meeting, our brand meeting. And he comes around to my villa. I invite him around to my villa. I say, bro, come around to my villa. And we chat for an hour instead of, just a general call meeting. It's all the same. But my point is, I bring him around, I bring him into my energy, into my frequency, into my house, how I live, how I see the world. And every week for the last 3 weeks, he's come back, and within an hour of meeting me, sale. Tom, I've just closed a 3K. Tom, I've just closed a 2K. Tom, I've just closed another 2K. Within hours after. Because it's exposure to that winning frequency, that consciousness, and it allows you to tap into it. It's almost like you get to test drive that car. So you can go and achieve the car faster. So when it comes to getting through this darkness and aligning faster up to that assumption, and even how to manage the darkness, a lot of the things I talk about still with clients, whether they're in my Physique and Mindset Elite program or whether they're in my brand program, as much as specialized knowledge is important, how you actually manage your thoughts in all areas is really important. I had a client where he was stuck at 5K a month, and there was issues going on, and people, these little dark taxes that you have to pay with people in your life not understanding you and partners not understanding you. And I gave him some wisdom because I've walked through all this. I've had failed relationships. I've had relationships rise. I've had them crash. I've had fallouts with family, fallouts with friends. Okay. And I could give him the wisdom. And I gave him some advice. He took it. And then within 1 month, he'd moved out to Bali, he hit 10K a month. Different frequency. And I have no doubt this guy will be at 100K a month in the next 12 months. And I mean that. Because I've seen how he operates. I've seen how fast he listens and applies exactly what I say. It's really important. Get around people with the mindset that don't just have the knowledge, but have the syntax to manage the dark side. Because if you let the dark side bring you down, it makes you pivot, it makes you doubt yourself, it brings you into a lower frequency, you lose. And a large proportion of winning is how you develop your relationship with this darkness. Because self-development can kill people. Because it brings a darkness that they're not ready to handle, they haven't had exposure on how to handle it. And it destroys them. Get around people that can help you through it. Get around people that can help you through it. Like I said, guys, you have to kill your old self every single day, and you have to face the truth. You can't avoid the truth. You just can't avoid it. Everyone's paradigm is around comfort. No matter what, you're sat there. You could be in the worst situation. I've told the story. I had my bank account hacked and I had 30K bills nearly. I think it was 26,000 bills within 30 hours. I had my rent to pay in Dubai at my apartment on Blue Waters, which was like 20k, and then some staff bills within a day and a bit. My bank had been hacked. It was all getting spammed out. And I was like, right, well, here's my test. And I had to just grind. And as much as the darkness could have beaten me up, I had to face the darkness. I couldn't hide. I couldn't cry. I had to literally just take action. Because you know, when you're a winner, that the suggesting things doesn't make you win. Ideating things doesn't make you win. Acting alone in darkness while my girlfriend goes to bed has no idea what's going on. But I have to grind. And I've done that infinite times where you've been in impossible situations and you have to grind through. And you're gonna face darkness. You're gonna face so many things when you're building yourself and you're building, because building yourself is only gonna lead to you building your brand, right? There is a version of you where you couldn't not have a brand and make a ton of money because you're just at such a level of consciousness. That's why phase 1, my program Elite, become the man. Phase 2, build the brand. Everyone should always continue becoming the man, because every level of success just requires a new level of you. But for the guys who want to go on and work with the brand, it's my brand stuff. But people don't get it. You know, you can literally be sat there, and because their biggest problem is they're nail chipped, or their biggest problem is that the government said tax is going to go up 3% and they only make $2,000 a month anyway. That's their biggest problem. But yet you can just to them be like, oh my God, he's living the dream. He's got this amazing house. He's making fuck tons. He's making thousands every day. And as much as that's good, you could just have a 300K bill hit tomorrow. You could have 4 members of staff leave. Like, with results, with consciousness, with competence comes more accountability. You know, your level of success will be in direct correlation with your stress tolerance. And you are going to face more pain. You know, as a business owner, you are a problem solver. So when you earn more money, it's because you're solving more problems. Either bigger problems or more problems for more people. And there's more accountability within your brand that needs to be looked after. You know, you've got more responsibilities. You've got legal stuff you have to manage. And everyone around you is living in their dimension of the world. They just have to go to work and they get their paycheck. And that's the white cloud life. That's the real hell. But if you want the sunshine, remember you're going to get the storm. It's the law of rhythm. You are going to have this. And the man who can just walk through those stressful situations, cold, emotionless, and show up and act like nothing happened, he's the guy that's going to win. But that's the truth, guys, behind what it really takes to get to a certain level. You hear me talk about alignment. You hear me talking about assumption. You hear me talking about the daily process. But all of that still comes with darkness. But darkness is part of the process. You can't just be in a high frequency all the time. Yes, you must align into that high frequency, into that dimension of life, but that takes 24/7 work. And that 24/7 work, not just the work, but with who you become from doing that work, there's a big tax you have to pay, especially when it comes to your environment and other people and your perception and all aspects of life that can leave you feeling very isolated, even when everything looks perfect. But when you show up and show up and show up every day, you're never on your own. And the reason why you're never on your own is because through all that pain, through all that sacrifice, guys, you find God. You realize you are never on your fucking own. And when you find God, when you then spend that time with your heart, with your consciousness, in isolation every day, you'll feel like you've got 100 times more social, people, positivity than you had when you had 1,000 people around you in your normie broke life. You've got to go through hell to get to heaven. But when you stay in the game of isolation, of darkness every day, you reach heaven. And when you're in heaven, it just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. But you will continue to be tested. God will still test you. Are you still equipped for this? Lightning ball. When everything seems to be going perfect. Lightning ball. Be ready. Be unfazed. Show him that you're in total control. But you're never on your own when you can listen inward, when you've got the authentic voice of God. That's what you need to know. Stay in the game. Never fucking quit. Build the body. Work on the mindset. Rewire it to nothing but the highest level. And when you reach the highest level, see a new highest level. And never stop. Build your dream life. Complete lifestyle design. Programmed by nothing but yourself. Don't listen to what anybody else says. Go after everything you want. The perfect day, the perfect reality, exactly how you want it. What would need to be true? Who do you need to become? Who can you get around to help you get there? And you're going to live a completely different life. And find pleasure in the pain. Find the rainbow in the thunderstorm. And when you find that rainbow in the thunderstorm every day, people find you crazy, people find you're a psychopath. That's when you're indestructible. Because the exact things people run away from are the things you run towards. And that's when you hit the exponential curve. That's when nobody can catch you. And you smile like a psychopath. Because you look forward to the exact things that everybody else turns their back to. Let's go.